I'd like to introduce Andrew Lambert from Electronic Media Services, who's going to be talking about AI in construction, threat or opportunity. Thank you. Here you go. There's your,
Thank you.
one of those.
So, well, first off, here's my made-up lectern, because I'm relatively normal and I don't have three arms. Exactly. So, as it says, my name's Andrew Lambert. I'm the CEO and founder of Electronic Media Services. We've had 20 years experience of providing technology solutions to the construction sector. Our first engagement with Commit was probably 20 years ago, providing bonded 3G and 4G solutions for rapid site setup. During COVID, we did a innovation project using some Bluetooth devices to manage the people getting too close together and tracking them on sites. That was bearable. It was a safe return to working project. And we have several innovation projects all running at the moment, looking at mental health, so using wearable devices to monitor worker health and also manage bipolar disorder. And we have some AI and digital twin projects looking at project management, materials management, and supply chain optimization. So, well, there we are. I found the title slide. So the QR code will reappear. It is my LinkedIn profile, so it is on the later one. So the title of my talk was AI: is it a threat or opportunity? I mean, we've heard this morning a little bit about ChatGPT, launched in 2022, has driven a significant increase in interest in AI and machine learning. So is AI and machine learning really a threat or opportunity? I thought this was an interesting slide showing people waiting for their job interview. So half of them are robots and half of them are people. My observation is that there are lots of tools out there. There's some of them are better than others. One of the ones I use is called Jasper.AI. It's a large language model. It's designed for generating marketing materials. It's great for marketing copy, white papers, social media campaigns, blog posts. It's really interesting if you go and look at their Jasper 101 training video, because the first thing they say is, this is not AI, it's a dumb word generator. You put in a prompt, it generates a word map from that prompt, and it gives you the words that have the highest probability to follow the previous word. So actually what that has done is it's generated a whole new job in people who are very skilled at writing prompts for AI, large language models. So the next few slides really sort of look at some of the sectors where AI has made an impact. And I have got my head around the clicker now. So we're all used to using services like Google, Bing, and Amazon, and Facebook to track our behavior across various sites and make recommendations. Some of this actually isn't new. Walmart were doing this 20 years ago. They would track your purchases in store. They could predict trends, so they would know sports event coming up. Hey, we might sell a lot of beer this weekend. So some of this stuff isn't new. It's just got more accurate and much easier to target individual groups and users. I mean, I met a company that sold mortgages, and they focused on the blue light services and the army, and actually they used Facebook as their way of identifying target customers. They said their cost of acquisition using the targeting that was available in Facebook, their cost of acquisition of a new customer was much lower than any other mechanism. So this stuff has been around for some while. In Asia, some people are beginning to use computer vision to track in-store behavior. So in this sort of scenario, the computer vision can see, did you look at the promotion in the window? Did you come into the store? How long have you spent in the store? Where did you go in the store? Are you a returning customer? There is an issue about privacy and that, but there are some innovative companies who actually don't use facial recognition. They look at the way you walk, the way you stand, how tall you are. So there are other mechanisms to just identify, have we seen you as an object before? They don't, and then they can track back, what did you look at last time? And of course, the ultimate thing that most retailers are interested in, did you spend any money? So, and they can incentivize the store assistants to come up to you and say, hey, we saw you last week. How did that last purchase work? Have you, would you be interested in this in this new product? AI is having a tremendous impact in the discovery of new drugs. Welcome the drug company forecast that over 70% of drug discovery will be driven by AI. It's already making a huge impact. And the other more important thing is that they reckon it will reduce the time and the cost to bring new drugs to market by anywhere between 25 and 50%. In the field of cancer screening, AI radiologists don't get tired. They can keep AI can keep flipping the screens and doesn't make mistakes. The Imperial College, the research by Imperial College has found that automated screening supported by a human to check the results increases the detection rate by 13%, and it typically reduces the time from you having a screening to getting the results from 14 days to 3 days. So, I mean, I don't know if any of your colleagues or friends have had cancer, but of course, the most worrying time is, I think I might have it. I've been to my test. Now I'm really waiting to get the results. So anything that can reduce that time to give the patient that result is a great benefit. As I said, we're working with Swansea University and several EU institutions exploring how wearables and mood apps can improve and manage mental health. ChatGPT, talked a little bit about it before. I mean, we use it. I mean, we're a software development company. It can improve the quality and for routine software development tasks and increase the speed. It can check for code. It can check for errors in code. Actually, also interestingly, when you're sat there going, I'm not sure how to do that, it's actually quite good at generating a template. We tried it. I tried it. Sat with some of my developers sat around a whiteboard trying to work out how we would design something. Put in a few text prompts, and it's like, wow, that's a really smart way of doing it. And we'd have, an engineer would have probably taken several days to come up with that. The other thing that it does is it can generate templates and methodologies for extracting data, and that can help with extracting data from machine tools, so you can track vibration in machines and you can predict outcomes. With Loughborough University, we're exploring the use of AI to manage computer networks and resource management within the networks. So there's lots of things that ChatGPT can do and is already having an impact on real business problems. So you're not supposed to be able to read this slide, by the way. That's my first point. So this was actually attached to a research paper, and it was showing what are the opportunities for AI and ML in construction. So it's a mind map that was attached to the research paper. And it really just demonstrates the broad width of things where AI can be of use. So Andrew already mentioned health and safety, risk management, Some of it is forecasting, project management, from quality, from QS and through to maintenance of buildings once they're actually live. So, as I said, there was no intention of you being able to read that slide. It was really just to demonstrate the breadth of the thing. This sort of slide condenses some of that, and I think Andrew has already covered some of these. Off-site manufacturing and automation. We've talked about material design and optimization, structural design analysis, and construction management, progress and safety. So these are some of the key topics that come up if you ask. So last year I was fortunate enough to be part of a UK government global expert mission where we went to Switzerland to discover what their AI focus on AI in construction was. Interestingly, Switzerland is an interesting country. It's a tiny country, small number of very small population. They have 2 of the world's top 10 research institutions, ETH and EPFL. The UK has 3, Oxford, Imperial and Cambridge, of course. The US have 4, and the 10th one, I believe, is in Korea. So for a very tiny country, Switzerland has some really innovative people. So one of the very first meetings we had was looking at how AI was used for bridge design. So they were this is right at the front end use of AI in the designs phase. So they'd use machine learning to take in a load of bridge models. So they got models of all the bridges that have been built in the world. They've done some machine learning on that, and then they used generative AI to come up with, I need something to span this distance. I can only put so many columns in and come up with a design that would meet that criteria. And it's got to have 6 lanes and 3 decks or whatever. You know, you could put in your criteria and it would come back with some suggestions about the bridge design. What was really neat about their system was, having come up with a design, you could feed the design back into the system and it would say, and this is how it will fail. These are this is where all the weak points are. So you could get the 5 or 6 suggestions and you could go, so why would I choose this one over that one? The other thing we were shown was a generative AI for timber frame buildings. So they have a 7-day house challenge that's run annually in Switzerland, and this team had used generative AI. It had taken all the models of previous timber frame houses, so you could sit there and say, oh, I want 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, a study. I've got this much floor area. It would come up with the optimum layout for the thing. It would generate all of the CAD files to go off to the factory to manufacture the timber frames, and the timber frame would then be delivered to the site to be built. And so they would build a house in 7 days, from starting with a chat GPT like interface to. So my view was, think of this of going to Wix and asking them to design your kitchen. You know, that they had a little interface that would allow you to move some of the rooms around and that. So, and obviously this was an example of using new materials to build complex 3D structures. So what are the things that you could do with 3D printing that you can't do with the traditional construction techniques? And of course, one of the other areas they were looking at was taking a design of a building, feeding it into a system that knew all the building regulations, and then it would say, your building is not compliant for the following points. And it was, you know, they had sort of statistics showing it was much more likely to find those areas than the real human, because I think Switzerland is a bit like us. They have very complicated building regulations. Just checking how I'm doing for time. This was an interesting one. So ETH had been using. They had a client come to them. So in Switzerland, they have a lot of tunnels, as you know. So they have all these big tunnel boring machines. And what they discovered was that regardless of the ground conditions that were found, their tunnel boring machine operators fell into three categories. They had some really great teams who made good progress. They had some average teams, and they had a few poor teams. And what they used was they took all of the data from from these three different classes of team, fed them into some AI models, and then used them for decision support. I'm not a tunnel boring expert, but I understand there are lots of knobs to twiddle when the machines are, I can understand some of the simple ones, which is how hard do you push on the rock and how quickly do you make the cutter go round. But I understand it's a bit more complicated than that. So they were using this sort of decision support model to really try to lift the skill of the the poor teams and also the average teams, trying to get them up to the good teams who were making good progress drilling through the rocks and the soil, regardless of the geology, because obviously the geology changes meter by meter. So you can't just say, hey, go and set these dials to these settings, because it will change. They did highlight they did identify some challenges. And I will come back. You will probably detect there's a recurring theme here. So they had some transients in data. So when the data they collected didn't always seem quite right. Sometimes they didn't have diversity of data. That the teams were drilling through quite a long piece of geology that was consistent, so you don't get a lot of changes. And Richard talked about labeling of data. So the quality of the labels you attach to the data are incredibly important. We also had a presentation from SBB, which is the National Rail Company. They rectify 23,000 track defects per annum. Obviously, physical inspection is time consuming, it's expensive, and clearly if you do it this way, it's highly dangerous. They equipped some of their trains with video analytics to try to detect faults on the defects on the rails, and that threw up some interesting points. So they identified really they just didn't have a big enough sample set of data. So what was happening was the AI was throwing up things saying you've got a rail defect at this point. The chap in his orange overalls would go out and go, oh, it's a leaf. They do have leaves they do have the wrong type of leaves in Switzerland as well. Or it would be a piece of plastic or some chewing gum. Or it might be raining or snowing when the picture was captured. So so they really realized very early on their big challenge was they just didn't collect enough data before they started training their AI model. They also made the point that they get approached by many startups with great ideas that would help them to manage the rail network better, but they really made the point that all of this was completely useless if it didn't fit within their current business process. You could have the best piece of technology, but if they couldn't fit it into the way they manage the rail network, they just couldn't deploy it. So I'm sure Tony's going to talk about drones, and one of the things we did was visit some people who were using drones for visual inspections. This particular group that we went and visited was very interested in bridge inspections after an earthquake, so post-earthquake analysis. they actually had models that would predict the amount of strength remaining in the bridge after the earthquake. So, and the other point they were really making was the beauty of a drone is you can go and do it over and over again. So you can build a longitudinal database. So you can see how big is that crack growing? How much has it grown? Does it grow faster at weekends, or is it Monday morning? You know, what triggers the growth? Icon AI are a very interesting company. That they use AI, augmented reality. I mean, you know, I went to a presentation about AI, augmented reality, and very interesting statistic came up. Does anybody have any idea what's the biggest market for augmented reality?
Shops, consumers. What can I sell you next?
Nearly right. It's Instagram and TikTok. So between them, I think they have about 3 billion users of augmented reality. You know those filters that put smiley faces and happy ears. And apparently 70% of Snapchat users make use of a augmented reality filter. Hey, you know, it's not my generation, but Incon AI have the sort of snap to structure stuff. So a lot of house building in Switzerland uses timber frames. So Incon AI, you take your phone, you point it at the structure of the timber frame house, and it will tell you where to lay the electrical cables, where the plumbing needs to go. It will tell you which components you need to use. And this is all around trying to do paperless and guided construction. Interestingly, they've used it in places like Malaysia to upskill the local workforce there so that they can build better quality homes in a shorter period. The other thing that's been used for is doing very complicated three-dimensional patterns in bricks. So that again, the bricklayer will point his camera at the structure he's trying to build, and the AI will tell him where to place the bricks and at what angle and what size they need to be. So it's much easier for him to take than trying to look at a 2D picture and say, how do I turn this into a 3D structure? Gravis were an interesting organization. They are doing automation of or driverless JCBs. Again, they have a labor shortage with skilled operators in this area. There's a regulatory issue, so they can only do this in enclosed semi-private areas. I don't think we're going to quite see them on the A23 just yet. They also have them for teleoperation for high risk operations. So imagine a building collapse or something like that, where you don't really want to send an operator in, but you can send an automated device in and it can help start clearing. Some of the challenges they identified were what they described them as perception issues. So when the sensors are looking at the ground, does it really detect the different surfaces correctly? Is it grass? Has it been snowing? Has it rained? Is it wet or is it dry? So they'd identified some of their challenges were really around this. Do I fully understand the environment? So if you go on the internet and look for Gravis robotics, some of their videos are quite good. You can see these devices sort of grading the slope that will end up being grass and that. You know, it's amazing to watch these things in operation. So you know, part of my title was is AI a threat or a challenge? I mean, Ant talked a bit earlier about the Industrial Revolution. My one I tend to use in this area is the microprocessor. I'm old enough to remember when it first came around, was first invented. the youngsters in here will have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, the IBM PC is 40 years old now, and when the IBM PC came out, there was doom and gloom from some of futurologists saying, you know, that we won't need all these workers, and certainly there are some jobs that have completely disappeared. You'd never see a typist hall nowadays. You never see a room full of typists. But they've gone on to, you know, but the PC has spawned a massive, you know, the microprocessor has spawned a massive new industry. You know, that I mean, when I was working for Philips Research, we were showing the sorts of services you have on your iPhone nowadays. We actually had a room, probably the size of that bit over there. It says SiteSense all the way up to the bar, full of mini computers all humming away. We quietly were very quiet about the amount of room that were there, that was there. So the technology does change things, but it tends to change the nature of work. It doesn't take jobs away. So as I said, I went on this trip to Switzerland. So like the UK's, construction is an important industry in Switzerland. So it's 10% of the economy in Switzerland, very similar to the UK, but somewhat resistant to change. There was a lot of discussion about using the asset owners to be part of the technology pool. So you know, if I look at the way BIM happened here in the UK, it wasn't construction who said, oh, we think we need BIM. It was the client saying, if you want to design my project, you have to supply BIM or use BIM. So and the same is happening in Switzerland in some of the use of these new design approaches and the use of AI. Definitely the recurring message I got from nearly every meeting was the size of the data set you use to train your models and the quality. Do you have a large enough data set? Do you have it covering enough different conditions? And have you labeled it all correctly? I mean, we did some in some of our network work we've been doing. We were trying to do some event network prediction, and the problem is if you don't collect enough data, all you end up doing is spotting the obvious things. So the obvious thing in a network is everybody arrives in the morning, they plug in all their computers, they all start up, they download their emails. So the network gets very busy. 5 o'clock, they all switch off and go home, so the network goes quiet. What the data when we were trying to build our model just completely missed was all of the peaks in the day, because it was just so overwhelmed by the massive events at the beginning and the end of the day. So quality of data is really important. As I said, the technology will change but not replace jobs. And if you're interested, Innovate UK have a activity called Bridge AI. You can go and have a look at there's the URL on top. They had about 40 million pounds or something targeted at encouraging companies to adopt AI in 4 key sectors: transport and logistics. Can't remember the other 2, but one of the fourth one was construction. Although Innovate UK quite often focus on competitions for innovation projects, what's different about the Bridge AI program is they have teamed up with some of the best universities and institutions in the UK, and they are running lots of training courses around AI and how you might use that in your business. So if you've got some engineers who we want to try and get some skill in, get them skilled a bit in AI, there's the Alan Turing Institute are running training courses. If you want to go to some of their business presentations about how AI might help your business, again, they are running workshops and seminars on that. So I would encourage you to go and look. And I'm out of time by a minute.
Thank you.